Hi, I'm Hywel Moore. I work for MicroStrategy. How many people have heard of MicroStrategy before? Good. We're normally the best kept secret in BI. This is my second tenure with MicroStrategy. I was here for a couple of years, about 7 years ago. I left to go and work as a BI manager in several places and then came back last year. So I have a lot of experience of using MicroStrategy for real. So today I'm going to talk around big data and MicroStrategy's view of what that actually means. And our view really is, if you're collecting this data, you need to make that data an asset. You need to be able to allow people to use that information to make real business decisions. So we're all familiar with this. Data volumes are growing exponentially. At the minute, 8 exabytes of business data annually is being collected by companies. We're seeing the growth of things like Facebook and YouTube and Twitter, and the masses of data being generated by that. We've seen ourselves, we have a product called MicroStrategy Wisdom, which allows us to analyze Facebook data. We've got 8.1 million people registered on that just now. That's just over 1% of the whole Facebook database. It's a huge amount of data that we're analyzing, and you can try that for free using the MicroStrategy product by downloading Wisdom app from iTunes. So huge amounts of data, and we're actually seeing this grow on a daily basis. The one area where we do see things going to grow exponentially is sensor data. So that's data coming from within inside machines. So whether that's sensor information from within aero engines, or whether it's something from within a GPS device in a phone, or other machinery. But that data is actually increasing exponentially. If I look at one example, there's a forthcoming $2.1 billion square kilometer array radio telescope due to come online in 2020. That's going to produce more data in a day than the internet currently does in a year. So you can see where this is going. We're going to have a real issue with the amount of data we're going to have to look at. We can already see the amount of storage that we have available to us and the amount of information we're creating. That's leaving a bit of a gap as to what we can actually do with it. So it's great having all this information, but if you can't store it and analyze it, it's not going to be really much use to you. And where there's a problem, there's always an opportunity. So McKinsey Global Research have basically said, in aggregate, there's about $1 trillion worth of opportunity in big data just now. It's a lot of money. And this is really where MicroStrategy comes in. We believe there are two major areas that are high performance access to all data. So if you have the data, you need to be able to access it. Everyone in your business needs to be able to access it. We have issues with federated data. I think there are very few companies that have their data all in one nice database, and you need fast sub-second response. The second challenge is you also need to be able to analyze that data. You need to be able to drill anywhere within the database. MicroStrategy uses Rollup. The power of Rollup allows you to drill down to the base level data. We have dashboards for giving information in a nice structured format to guide analysis, to give that information to somebody that can take Mobileye. And we also have interactive visualizations for exploring, which I'm going to come on to later. This chart just basically shows the kinds of databases that are out there just now. Different options from different vendors. You see at the bottom is the multidimensional databases. We're all familiar with this if we've been in planning. Cube databases. We can handle all of these databases on this chart. The problem with the bottom layer was obviously smaller amounts of data, but quite fast response. The next layer up, typical database applications that we use for data warehousing. Those of us who've worked in data warehousing have probably seen all of these. Great tools, but more complex to implement, more pricey. Then as we've seen technology move on, those of us who've been around in the business a long time will have remembered when people said there'll only be 2 to 4 databases in 10 years' time. Well, they were wrong. Clearly, they were wrong. It's completely gone the other direction. What we've seen is people came into the market and said there's an opportunity. We need to do things faster. So we saw the advent of the database appliance, where the database and the technology, data warehousing technology is all on the same machine. Then we had another explosion where we had the introduction of columnar databases, and the reason why is it's 10 times faster for the queries. And then now we've seen the likes of Hadoop and MapReduce databases, which allows us to push data out across multiple different instances and analyze that. So things are moving constantly in the database world. MicroStrategy keeps up. We're not tied to one database vendor because we're completely database agnostic. But what that means is that we can analyze data from any of these data sources. We can analyze at scale, and we can analyze at speed. So we're already well prepared for the big data revolution. Again, I've been a BI manager in several large companies, and although we had a corporate data warehouse, none of the data was really there. It was still all over the place. So federated data is really something that's an issue. It's expensive to move data from one place to another. With MicroStrategy multi-source, what we can do is we can actually have that data where it is, and we can use MicroStrategy as a logical data warehouse over the top using our multi-source technology. So if you have a data warehouse, but you want to augment that with some data that's in another data source, as long as you have that dimension conformed, you can basically use MicroStrategy to bring that into one place. And really what that means is we can bring data in from multiple data sources, multiple databases, from the cloud, from spreadsheets, and allow people to analyze that on the fly to get the real value from it. And what that means is using multi-source, you haven't got the hassle or the expense of moving the data to a different place. You're not duplicating effort. You don't have to do the ETL or the engineering or buying new databases. So it provides an holistic approach. We've had multi-source available for about 2.5 years. Lots of our customers are using it, seeing a lot of benefit. And I wish I'd had this when I was a BI manager because I would have made use of it. It's very interesting technology. Moving on, the next important thing that we see is performance. Everybody wants their data, they want it immediately. Nobody really wants to wait. Now, MicroStrategy, when we run a query against a database, everything is optimized for that specific database. We push information down to the underlying database technology. So we use the power of Teradata if we're using Teradata, we use the power of SQL if we're using SQL Server. But still, there are times when people want sub-second response, especially if you're using mobile devices and you have the data cached. If you were to run a CAT scan of your data sources, you would see something like this, where maybe 50 to 80% of your data is in clumps. Can't think of a better word for that, but it's closely related. It's the kind of data that you're looking at regularly. So what you can do with that is you can bring that into in-memory cubes. And if they're in in-memory cubes, you can then run that data a lot faster. That doesn't prevent you from using the power of MicroStrategy in general, because what we can do is, if your query hits the cache and can answer the question, fine, you'll get sub-second response or 2-second response. If it can't, it will go down into the data warehouse and bring you back the query. It's part of our caching strategy, and again, it's an option. So by using in-memory technology, we can, in general, provide sub-2-second response times, because in-memory is much faster than disk access. And again, we can mix and match this depending on the kind of queries that you're running. And as I said, OLAP services will reroute the query depending on whether the cache needs refreshed or whether the data is not in the cube. Even if you were analyzing data in that cube and you would traditionally come to a wall in some technologies, in MicroStrategy, you don't hit a wall, you just drill back into the underlying database using rollup technology, so you still get to the underlying information. And we have over 1,000 of our customers already using this, so this is proven technology and it does really work. And then moving on to the second issue, is you've got this data, what do we really do with it? How do we make this available to the end user? One of the real strengths of MicroStrategy is the drill anywhere capability. If you can drill anywhere, up and down a hierarchy, sideways, change the way you're analyzing information, you can really dig in to do root cause analysis. You can ask any question of the data, and you can get down right to the lowest level of data in that database. This also works from the iPad device. You can drill anywhere from iPad as long as you're connected to the network. So we can extend that capability out to anybody, even on the move. We can extend this further using dynamic dashboards. MicroStrategy has had dashboarding technology for quite a long while. We believe we're one of the leaders in the mobile space. We have apps for Apple devices and for Android. And this is a sample application. It's highly visual, easy to consume, make it easy for the users to take it with them. Very simple navigation, uses all of the Apple interface, and it's data focused on decisions. So you see something that you want to drill down on, you can go down to the next level. You can see something you want to focus in on, you can drill through, get to that information as well. And these can be multi-layered dashboards to let you get through that information. And thirdly, you need a method to understand this data. So what we're going to show today is Visual Insight. Visual Insight is our end user tool to allow people to take that data and to be able to visualize it without any help from IT. Because what we've found is there's always a delay. IT is always backed up. People want access to the information. Typically what they do now is they take a snapshot in Excel and they'll try and do something with it in Excel. What we can do is we can take that data, or we can point Visual Insight at the underlying database, and we can use our technology to provide very quick visualizations. That looked like that CFO dashboard example there, but one visualization per page. And what that allows us to do, it allows end users to use the tool to build the visualizations they would like IT to build them, and then they can go back to IT and say, look, I've cut the development cycle short. That's what I'm trying to achieve. So you cut out the whole writing the spec, negotiating, going around the loop, trying to work out what somebody's looking for, because it's much easier if they can see the information in the data and show you what they're trying to actually achieve. So I'm going to come on to this in a few minutes. I'm just going to walk you through it. So we can load the data in, we can identify trends, we can identify focus areas, we can then build these into dashboards very quickly, and we can save and share. So to do this, we're just going to load in an Excel spreadsheet. I'm going to build an in-memory cube that we've talked about in all app services, and I'm going to build some very quick dashboards using Visual Insight. These visualizations are the same that we use in the core tool to build the normal dashboards, but this is a quick and easy method of doing this. So I'm just going to come on to that shortly. So it's about making data available to everyone in your organization to allow them to analyze the information you have quickly and to spot those trends. If you have to wait to analyze the data, it's probably too late. You need to be able to do it very quickly. So that's really our view. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, should we move on to the demo? I do have some notes for this because this one is a little bit more complex. So I have MicroStrategy loaded on this machine with a mobile web server, and I'm going to use Connectify to push the messages out to my iPad. I'm happy if I spelled that right. It doesn't matter which of these projects I'm going to use. This is the standard MicroStrategy web interface. So I'm going to use this folder so I remember where I am. I've already set up a connection to my iPad from this folder. So I'm going to load in some data from a file. It could be an Excel file, or it could be from a database. So I'm just going to take this from my desktop. This has been taken from one of our customers. This is actual live information on the performance of some slot machines in a casino. So it brings the information and it has a guess as to what's an attribute and what's a metric, and allows me to change those and change the details. So slot machine is actually an attribute, and jackpot is a metric. I can see it. I'm going to change win to behold, and that's effectively the profits from that machine. I'm going to publish that cube. So I'll just call that demo cube. So this is basically using the power of MicroStrategy that has had to go through the hassle of building a multidimensional model. So we just brought that into an in-memory cube. I could now go ahead and create a report or a document. I'm going to create an analysis. So I'm going to choose the kind I want. I'm going to choose a graph of graphs. I'm going to reset this so it moves all. So I'm basically setting out a grid of graphs by slot machine location and slot machine type, so I can see the kind of performance. I'm going to move coin into the x-axis and hold to the y-axis. I'm going to break by slot machine. And we can quickly see that there's an outlier here. So very quickly we can bring information in from a database table or tables or from an Excel spreadsheet. We can allow people to analyze it, and very quickly you can see visually something that you may not be able to see in an Excel spreadsheet. So I'm going to rename this tab Slot Performance. I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to just select this one where we've got the outlier. My colleagues in the US would call this a marquee select. I call it lassoing. So I'm going to keep that. So now I'm focused just on the $100 slots in the north location. I'm going to bring the slot machine into the color by so we can see the individual machines. One's gone off to the side there. Now I'm going to create a metric for profit. So if I take, hold, and coin in, I can create a new metric. And I'm going to drag that into the size by. I'm going to rename that profit. You can immediately see now that this machine here is not making a profit. So I maybe want to try and find out why. So let's look at the payout amounts. I could drag the payout amount to the y-axis. Move hold. And the jackpot amount to the x-axis. Got a perfect line there, so that's what I was expecting, that there should be a line, so it is paying out as I'd expect. And it basically means that that machine's hardly making a profit, so they maybe need to find out why. So let's get a view on that. So let's duplicate that again. I maybe want to see that as a heat map. Let's change the visualization. Quickly change that visualization. I'm going to change the size by here to view by jackpot amount. Again, we get a slightly different view. And I'm going to drag coin in. It's already there. Slot amount and hold into the additional metrics. If I hover over any of these, I then can see the information underneath. No, I'm colorblind, so I can't tell which of those is which color. But it's basically telling me that one of these, this machine is paying out too much in jackpots. Now I can carry on building out these dashboards as far as I want. I can create as many different layers. You can try this out for real. If you go to microstrategy.com/cloud/personal, there is a version which you can use there by uploading a subset of data or using one of our dummy sets and then share that out to your devices. So I'm going to save this now. So I'll call this DemoCube dashboard. I'll run it. And I'm going to connect this up. So I've set this link up previously, so this is basically a URL to the web server on my machine. And if I save this in the right place, did I save it in the right folder? Probably not. Save it again. Save as. I saved it into my reports. I'll save it into shared reports. So, demo cube dashboard. I'll run it. Come on, refresh. When you shake it, it's supposed to refresh. Set. Best laid plans, it's there on here. Run it again. Right, I'm going to save it again as Fred. Force it. Let's run back. For some reason it isn't wanting to refresh. This is one that I built earlier. I'll try and get this one. So this is what it looks like on the iPad. So the same things that we built on the desktop version, just rendered in MicroStrategy. So it's very quick to build, very quick for end users to use. Now, when I ran large BI teams, this would have been ideal for some of my ad hoc analysis, to take some of the pressure away from my development team. It allows people to answer questions very quickly, and if it's a throwaway request, they can bring in a data set, they can build the analysis, they can throw it away. If it's something they then want to go on to put into production, they can bring that back to IT and have it built into the system in full. And any questions?
What type of people do you see using, what sort of background do you see these people using?
Well, when I worked in banking, I would have seen people in products and marketing using this. Financial analysts. When I worked at Sage in Newcastle, I would have seen some of the sales performance people using this, the people looking at sales renewals. So anybody really who accesses data, anybody who really can use Excel could use this.
And did you find they need any sort of training, or do you feel it was pretty obvious and self-explanatory for them?
To be honest, what I'm finding with this, we run a one-day course called Intro to BI and Intro to Mobile. It's open to anybody. It's on the website. And we find when people come on, they very quickly get to grips with this. They can build it themselves. Even internally, we don't get any training on this. We get a release and get told go on and play with it and see how far you get. So it is very easy to use. It uses exactly the same visualizations that are in the main tool set. The only difference with Visual Insight is it's designed to be end user tool. So the main detailed dashboards use the same visualizations, but obviously need a little bit more skill to build. But it does get you there very quickly.